from Kern Government Television. Welcome to this week's Kern County Board of Supervisors meeting. Originating from the County Administrative Center, located at 1115 Truxton Avenue in Bakersfield, California. Grounded in ideas, energy, and innovation, Kern County's vision is to be a driving force for the world's fifth largest economy. And our mission is to exceed expectations of the communities we serve, changing the way they feel about government, those who manage it, and the services it provides. Today's Kern County Board of Supervisors meeting will convene momentarily.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Supervisor Peters.
Here.
Supervisor Scribner.
Here.
Supervisor Flores.
Here.
Supervisor Couch.
Here.
Supervisor Perez. Here.
Okay, thank you. At this time, we'll first hear from County Counsel Margot Raison on any reporter actions taken in closed session.
Good afternoon, Chairman Flores, members of the board. This morning you met in closed session on items number 62 through 65, and there is no reportable action.
Thank you so much. Okay, at this time, we'll be considering the consent agenda. Agendas are located on the tables near the back of the doors for anyone that wants to follow along. All items listed with the CA or C above the item number are considered to be routine and non-controversial by county staff. The CA represents the agenda for the Kern Sanitation Authority. Consent items will be considered first and may be approved by one motion. If a member of the audience wishes to comment or ask questions regarding an item on the consent agenda, they may do so prior to a vote being taken. A member of the board may remove any item from the consent agenda, and it will be considered in listed sequence with an opportunity for any member of the public to address the board concerning the item before action is taken. At this time, I'll read the consent agenda item numbers for the Board of Supervisors agenda. On page 2, item 4. On page 3, items 5 through 7. On page 4, items 8 through 10. On page 5, items 11 through 15. On page 6, items 16 through 22. On page 7, items 23 through 28. On page 8, items 30 through 33, and items 35 and 36. And lastly, on page 9, items 37 through 42. So if anyone in the audience would like to provide comment on the agenda items, now is the time on consent agenda.
Hi, I would like to oppose to, I believe it is C5.
Ma'am, can you pull the microphone down just a little bit and state your name?
My name is Lydia Mosley.
Or you said item number 5?
Yes, item number 5. It's pertaining to the property on Brown Road, the 5925 Brown Road. Martin Mosley objects to the abatement fees. Once he was aware of the violation, Once aware of the violations, Mr. Mosley, on several occasions, there was a case pending for the property. It was in probate, and while it was in probate, it was during COVID, so there was an 18-month period that it was like tied up in court. It was a little longer than 18 months. As soon as he was aware of the violations, he would try to go to the property and do the cleanup that he was supposed to. The occupants of the property would call the sheriffs. Mr. Mosley would be denied access, like the outside access to the property to clean it up and everything. Mr. Mosley had owned a California certified recycling business for over 25 years with the necessary experience and equipment for correcting the violations and maintaining the property.
Ma'am, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but if it's okay with you, I'll just go ahead and remove this from the consent agenda, and that way we can approve this, and then we can discuss this just as its own item after we approve the consent agenda.
I appreciate that very much.
No
Thank
problem.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So at this time, we'll adopt the consent items with the exception of item 5. We'll hear that in its regular order. Oh, sorry, I didn't see you, sorry.
Good afternoon. My name is Rich O'Neill. I'm with the Kern River Parkway Foundation. And I'm here to ask you to remove the item in regard to this location of the homeless shelter at 201 East Roberts Lane. My agenda that I was sent was number 29, but I didn't hear you read it earlier. Is it still on the calendar?
That one is going to be heard off consent, not on consent. That's off consent already. Right now, we're discussing the consent agenda.
Oh, can I remove it from?
Well, it doesn't need to be removed from consent because it's not on consent. We're going to hear it in the agenda items that follow after we adopt the consent agenda. Does that make sense?
Okay, I'll come back.
Okay, yeah, when I call the item, you can come up and speak to that.
Okay, thank
Item
you.
number 29. Thank you, sir. Okay, so at this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda. And subsequently adjourn as the Board of Supervisors and reconvene as the Kern Sanitation Authority.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, first and second, members cast your vote.
The motion is approved, all ayes.
Thank you. At this time, we are now sitting as the Kern Sanitation Authority and will consider the consent agenda, which includes item C1. Would anyone in the audience like to speak to that item? Okay, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to adopt.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda and to adjourn as the Kern Sanitation Authority and reconvene as the Board of Supervisors.
Thank you, Supervisor Scrivener. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Members cast your vote.
The motion is approved, all ayes.
Thank you. Okay, we have reconvened as the Board of Supervisors, and we're going to consider first up item number 5 under the Public Works Department, which is a protest hearing on proposed confirmation of administrative penalties and costs incurred for nuisance abatement work located at 5925 Brown Road in Inyo, Kern.
Mr. Chairman, can we go back and hear item number 2 first? And we'll hear item number 5 in listed sequence.
Okay, forgot about that. Okay,
Okay.
let's go to public presentations. Sorry about that, Public Works. We'll come to you quickly. This portion of the meeting is reserved for persons to address the board on any matter not on the agenda, but under the jurisdiction of the board. Board members will respond briefly to statements made or questions posed. They may ask a question for clarification, make a referral to staff for factual information, or request staff to report back to the board at a later meeting. Also, the board may take action to direct staff to place a matter of business on a future agenda. Speakers are limited to 2 minutes. Please state and spell your name before making your presentation. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Ralph Robles, R-O-B-L-E-S. I am a veteran, and I've come to ask you some questions. In reference to the last election, how many ballots were cast in invalid addresses? How many ballots were harvested? How many ballots were sent to addresses with unusually large number of voters? How many ballots were from nursing/assisted living facilities? How many names were purged from the voter rolls in this latest election? How many dead people voted in the last election? In the latest election recount, did you use the same method of counting as the original count? Next, how many equipment failures occurred during that last election? How many times was the ballot count counted? How many times was the ballot count revised? How many times was the number of ballots left to be counted revised? What action has been taken to prevent recurrence of these events? Will the Board of Supervisors approve the use of the continued use of Dominion equipment? I ask these questions because I recently said goodbye to a young warrior who is taken his family across the country to his next assignment. I remind you that there are warriors out there that are still coming under hostile fire. We have people in first response jobs. We have people with disabilities for defending your rights and our way of governance. We are under attack from without and from within. Your continued inaction while all these occurrences are
Thank you,
cutting
sir.
into our system
Thank you. Your time is
are
expired. but you
endangering
wanna conclude
our
your remarks?
way of life. Thank you for hearing me.
And also, Mr. Robles, would you like to leave your questions with our staff here to your right? And also, as a point of information, our last meeting in this month, we're going to have our elections department. Our chief will be here going over the elections comprehensively. You may also wish to come and attend there and ask some questions at that time.
Will that be in the morning or evening?
AM session.
AM session.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Any more under public presentations? Okay, seeing none, we'll move forward. Oh, Ms. Lorelei Oviatt, our Director of Planning.
Good
Did not see
afternoon.
you, sorry.
Good afternoon, Chairman Flores, members of the board. Lorelei Oviatt, Director of Kern County Planning and Natural Resources. I wanted to bring to your attention our webinar next Wednesday. This is the first look at our Department of Energy Technical Assistance Grant Carbon Management Park. So this is also on the agenda under miscellaneous I for those who wanted to go online and look at this. This gives you the location at Kern Planning where you can find the link next Wednesday. So we're going to give you a first look at one of the industries that we've been working on, which is direct air capture. The idea behind this, that we've been working with, the Department of Energy has given us technical experts from around the country, working with our consultant, Blue Engine, and we will be coming up with an interactive website that we'll be presenting to you in March, where people can go and they can look at various industries and they can find out how many jobs they could produce, how much revenue. I'm doing a separate economic study to look at what kind of property taxes, sales tax, and other revenue, these types of new clean energy. And the idea behind this is to create a vision for the private sector and investors to bring to Kern County a carbon management business park near potential carbon capture projects, which you will be considering this year. So we're very excited about this, and we hope that you and your staff and others in the public can look at our first look. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Great news. Any other public comment? Okay, seeing none, we'll move forward to board member announcements or reports. Okay. Moving forward now, that brings us to Public Works Department. Item number 5, protest hearing on proposed confirmation of administrative penalties and costs incurred for nuisance abatement work located at 5925 Brown Road in Inyo, Kern.
Good
Sam.
afternoon.
Good
Chairman Flores, I will have Al Rojas from my office
Thank you.
handle this item.
Yeah, please proceed.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chairman of the board, members of the board. The subject property located at 5925 Brown Road in Inyo, Kern, APN number 056-23014, owned by Martin Leland Mosley Jr., was determined by this office to constitute a public nuisance under Kern County Ordinance Code Chapter 8.44 and in violation of the following Kern County Ordinance Code Section 1902-060 for storage of inoperable vehicles in an area not zoned for industrial storage, Section 1716-060B for dangerous electrical wires, Section 846010 for excessive accumulation of weeds on exterior premises, Section 844050 for failure to keep premises from creating a public nuisance, and Section 828110 for accumulation of trash, junk, debris, and storage of miscellaneous items. The property owner was notified that a public nuisance existed on the subject property and was provided a description of the nuisance. The owner of the subject property was given a reasonable period to abate the nuisance and was notified of his right to appeal. The property owner failed to comply with the attached notice and orders, which was mailed U.S. mail, first-class postage, prepaid on December 23rd and August 2020 and August 11th, 2021, and was posted on the subject property January 4th, 2021 and August 16th, 2021. The final notice was mailed in the same manner on March 10th, 2021, October 20th, 2021, November 4th, 2021. And it was posted on the subject property on March 15th, 2021, October 26th, 2021, and November 8th, 2021. There was still no effort on part of the property owner to abate the nuisance. Therefore, the Public Works Department abated these nuisances pursuant to Kern County Ordinance Code Chapter 8.44. The notice and order to the property owner informed him that if he failed to abate the nuisance and the county was required to abate the nuisance, all costs associated with the abatement would be assessed against subject property and could be collected as a special assessment on the tax bill for the subject property. Staff issued an administrative penalty in the amount of $250 on May 14, 2021, in an effort to encourage the property owner to abate the violations. On or about March 29, 2022, abatement work was performed at 5925 Brown Road. The work, which was done to abate the public nuisance on the subject property, consisted of removing trash, junk, debris, and miscellaneous items from the exterior of the premises, cutting, trimming, and clearing excessive vegetation and weeds, and removal of inoperable vehicles. A notice of protest hearing on proposed confirmation of admin penalties and costs for nuisance abatement work and statement of verified expenses was prepared for this project, showing the total gross and net expenses of the abatement at a total cost of $10,965.10. Included in the notice of protest hearing was a statement that your board would consider these costs at today's hearing. This notice of protest hearing was posted on the subject property on November 29, 2022, and was mailed first-class postage prepaid on November 22, 2022, to the property owner in the manner prescribed in the Kern County Ordinance Codes, Chapter 844 and 854. The department is requesting that your board conduct a hearing to confirm the administrative penalties and the cost for the abatement of the nuisance. And that concludes staff's comments. We're available to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Rojas. Before we go and open the public hearing, is there any comments or questions from the board? No? Okay, at this time, we'll open the public hearing.
Lydia Mosley,
Thank you.
Lydia Mosley. So there was an occupant at the property. It was going through probate. Mr. Mosley was trying to get full control of the property. It had gotten tied up in court. This was in January of 19. Due to the COVID and everything, it ended up being tied up in court for over 18 months. During that time, when he first received the certified notice, he went to the property to try and do the work, and that needed to be done. He was aware of it. When he initially received the notification, the first one he received was at P.O. Box 67 in Kern. After that, notifications started being mailed to a different address. When he would go to the property, the occupants would call the sheriffs, and the sheriffs would tell him that it was a civil matter and that he wasn't able to enter the property or be anywhere near the property to do the work. I'm not sure of an exact date, but it was prior to February 7th, 2021. He had been to the property several times. I have the sheriff's incident case numbers of where they were called, and I don't have the actual reports, but I do have the incident numbers. He received another certified letter, and when he received that letter, February 7th, 2021, he went to the property to do the work. He had his probate documents with the court seal stamped and signed by the probate court, as well as a code compliance letter to abate. The occupants had called the sheriffs. There were 2 sheriffs that had showed up. One of them was Deputy Dunshee. The other one I don't have a name for. Deputy Dunshee had told Martin Mosley that his documents did not give him the right to abate the property because it was a civil matter, and that Mr. Mosley must have a court order to abate violations. The deputy threatened to arrest Mr. Mosley if he were to move forward correcting the violations without a court order, even though the order to abate stated that Mr. Mosley was the current owner and/or responsible party to maintain the property free of any violations of the Kern County Ordinance Code. He had requested, Martin Mosley requested all the documents and everything, and for like a case history. That's how he found out there were other notices and everything else that had been sent. That was on August 25th of 21. That's when he's seen that the mailing, there was an issue with the mailing. February 18th of 2022, there was an order dismissing the probate case. Mr. Mosley had requested 30 days for the occupant to vacate the premises. The court had given them 60 days due to disabilities, which would have been April 18th, 2022. It ended up being April 22nd, 2022, due to court availability for the calendar. The occupant had requested that Martin Mosley not go anywhere near the property during the 60 days. The court granted that, and Martin had agreed to stay away from the property during the 60 days, which started on February 18th, 2022. February 24th, 2022 is when the bid was accepted. March 1st, the abatement was fast-tracked for some reason. I have all the documentation of that as well. March 2022, on or about, it was March 29th of 2022, the abatement work had been done. April 22nd, 2022 is when Martin received full control of the property and the occupants were gone, and he had found out that it had already been cleaned up during the 60-day period when he was told to stay away from the property. He objects to the abatement fees once he was aware of the violations on several occasions while the above, like the mentioned case, the probate case was pending. He attempted to abate and correct the violations pertaining to the property. The sheriffs were called every time. Mr. Mosley, he had previously owned a California certified recycling business for over 25 years. He has the necessary experience and equipment for correcting the violations and maintaining the property. From the time he was aware of the violations, he was also in contact with code compliance officers, keeping them updated of the progress of the probate case, as well as inform them what he had been told by the sheriffs. I only have the documents, like the correspondence of when he was talking with them up until August 25th of 2021, because that's when he requested them. He recently requested more to get the more recent communication between himself and the code compliance, yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
He also, so it was about 30 days before the case was dismissed. The case ended up being dismissed and he got full control of the property. But it had been claimed during that 60 days. That's like a big concern that he was told to stay away from it during that 60 days. Also, there were items that were taken during the cleanup that weren't junk, and they weren't listed in the abatement bid, the abatement work. There was a 40-foot sea cargo storage container with an estimated cost of $5,500, and that's for a used and delivered one. as well
Thank
as
you, ma'am. May I ask you how many more minutes you plan to speak? Because I'm trying to time some future items and some people that are here.
I am almost done.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Also, the 40-foot storage container that was taken, that shouldn't have been taken. And there were also 4 metal bins that were dumpster-style bins that were estimated at $500 for all 4. And there were 2 junk trailers that were left as well that were not taken. There's pictures provided in all of the case history of what it should have been. But he's not debating that the property didn't need to be cleaned up. He does agree that, yes, it did. It's just that when he tried, he was run off by the sheriffs every time and told it was a civil matter, even though he had documents stating that he was the owner of the property and whatnot. And then when the 60 days when the occupant was given to leave, it was cleaned up during that 60 days when he was told by the court to stay off of the property.
Okay, thank you.
I have documents. Do you want me to give it to anybody, or?
You can give it to the clerk of the board. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry.
That's okay.
Chairman, can I jump in here?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Supervisor Peters.
Mr. Rojas, are there any things in there that she mentioned that you're aware of that you would like to comment on, whether or not it's, that they weren't allowed to access the property?
Yeah, I'm unaware of any court order banning or preventing Mr. Mosley from being on the property. Typically, when there's an eviction or some kind of civil action, we're usually sent copies of documents saying, this is what's going on, this is what needs to happen. I mean, this is a pretty unfortunate situation. This case started in October of 2020. It concluded in 2022. So we were sensitive to the fact that something was going on. But again, this thing was just taking way too long. Sheriffs were called out several times to remove people from the property just because we had surfacing sewage, dangerous electrical. It was a bad situation. The owner, yes, he was aware and in contact with us, since like January of 21, so it wasn't too long that he wasn't aware. He became aware fairly quickly. And again, during that time, our expectation is that the work be done. We would notify them when we would go and actually tag the buildings and post the buildings. That kind of serves as a small window of opportunity. Again, it's going to be up to the sheriff, what they enforce on site. But as far as, I don't doubt what she's narrating, but for us, are we aware? No, we were not.
Okay. Just out of an abundance of caution, I know this has been going on for quite a while, but I don't know any of the ins and outs of this as far as whether or not he was able to access the property or not. But is there any way we could continue this for a small period of time and give you guys the opportunity to talk a little bit more? I'm sorry, Ms. Mosley could share some more information with your department and just try and get to the bottom of this, and then we can bring this back before the board and at our next meeting or whenever would be best for your department.
We would love to entertain any information that she can provide for us to evaluate.
Okay, thank you very much. That's all for me, Chairman. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Supervisor Peters.
That would be up to you guys. What would be the best time to bring that back? Would it be January 24th?
January 24th.
Okay. Then I would make a motion that we table this until January 24th.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and second. Members, cast your vote.
My name is Mark Mosey, and I'd like to say something. I'm the owner of the property.
Okay, but we're going to continue this item, and you can speak when we hear it at the next meeting, okay, sir? We've just closed the public hearing. Unless would you like to?
Sorry, this would give you guys an opportunity to discuss all these issues with the Code Compliance Department and share whatever information you have, and then we would bring this back before the board on January 24th.
Yeah, we're not taking any action today. We're going to bring it back, and you can speak to that matter at that hearing.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, members, cast your vote. Supervisor Couch.
I don't want to gum this up, but when the owner of the property stands up and says he wants to say something, is it best, out of a continued abundance of caution, that we allow him to speak, even though we might continue this for a couple of weeks? I'm looking to our county council.
Has a vote been taken?
No.
No. I would, because and I apologize, but I did not hear a formal closing of the public hearing. There was the discussion about continuing it, which is all fine, but because technically and in an abundance of caution, the public hearing was still open,
Okay.
I would let this
So-
man speak.
Yeah, okay, so since the public hearing has not been closed and we've not yet voted, the public hearing continues. Please, sir, come down and we'll continue the public hearing.
Please state your name for the record.
My name is Martin Mosley. I am the owner of that property that's in question. As my daughter said, I tried to clean it up and was stopped by the sheriffs, and I didn't know what to do after that. The sheriffs threatened me with arrest if I went on the property to clean it up. As she said, I had all the proper documents. I spoke with Jason Smith. I spoke with Abel Gonzalez, both code compliance officers, and explained the court situation. And nobody said that they were gonna move instantly. They said that they would, I don't remember. It's just, yeah, they said that they would give me time until the court thing was done. And with the COVID, the courts put everything out 18 months, and it just tied my hands. The sheriffs wouldn't let me on. So thank you.
Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr.
You know,
Mosley.
This really got me upset, and I just don't know.
Well, thank you for sharing, and I think the fact that we're going to give you a continuance will help you discuss this further. Supervisor Peters.
Thank you, Chairman. Could one of you leave your contact information with the CAO right here, and that way my office can be in contact with you as well? Thank you.
Would any members of the public like to speak in the public hearing? Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. And I believe we have a motion. Did we get a second to continue? Okay, and a second by Supervisor Couch. Members, please cast your vote.
The motion is approved. All ayes.
Thank you. Okay, that brings us to our next item, item number 29, under General Services Division. This is an item to identify parent low responsive and responsible bid and approve contract with Elite Constructors, Inc. for Supportive Services Village. And leading us off on this discussion will be our CEO, Ryan Alsop.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I'm going to ask Mr. Zerfus in our office to handle this item.
Thank you. Please proceed.
Yeah, Honorable Chairman and members of the Board of Supervisors, the project before you today is to identify a low bid and award a construction contract for the Supportive Services Village in Oildale. Prior to considering that action, I would like to provide some background on this project and the facts about what this project is and is not, as there's been a lot of misinformation circulating about this project. To provide some background, in October of 2021, your board received a report from staff on a strategic action plan to reduce homelessness and mitigate its impact on public safety and quality of life. The project being considered today was included in that plan. In June of 2021, your board approved the utilization of $15 million from the Federal American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA, To address homelessness, in 2021 and 2022, your board approved the use of that ARPA funding for specific components of the strategic action plan, including this project. This project is fully designed and permitted, and on November 8th, 2022, your board approved the plans, specifications, including location, and notice to contractors for the public bidding process for this project. These bids were due on December 13th, 2022. Staff has evaluated these bid packages, and today your board is considering awarding that bid to the lowest responsive bidder. As for the project, the Oildale Supportive Services Facility is a non-congregate supportive services and housing project, including 50 individual sleeping quarters, 6 restrooms and shower facilities, 2 laundry rooms, 2 community buildings, 1 security building, and 2 administrative buildings from which full wraparound services will be provided. All of these buildings are either prefabricated or modular to save costs and shorten construction time. Would ask the clerk to the board to please show the site plan slide on the overhead. The small orange buildings in the L and reverse L shapes going out the center and then off to the sides are the individual sleeping quarter facilities. You can tell this project has a parking lot up front that faces onto Roberts Lane, as well as full landscaping around the facility. There is a small access road that wraps around the facility. On the inside of that is full privacy fencing that would extend, to the top 6 feet or 7 feet above the grade. This project in the middle, there's a landscaped area that is also conducive for pets. There's a security gate at the front. There is 1 exit and entrance location through that gate where security will screen folks that are coming in to the facility. The 3 yellow facilities on the front of each, or the blue rather, are the restroom facilities, and then we have some administrative and communal buildings on the side, or which services would be provided. But that site plan accurately depicts the project as it's designed currently. The Oildale Supportive Services Village, the project is located on a county-owned land at 201 East Roberts Lane. That's the southeast corner of Hart Street and East Roberts Lane in Oildale. This site was the alternate location for the county's M Street Navigation Center. This site was selected for the project after evaluating underutilized county-owned properties, the concentration of homeless individuals throughout the community, proximity to public transportation and vital services, zoning and land use regulations, and other factors. This project is a close collaboration between the County Administrative Office, the Kern County Behavioral Health and Recovery Services, and in consultation with the broader homeless services provider network. This project is not reinventing the wheel. There are many similar projects that are proving successful, not just in California, but in a number of states across the country. In fact, there are 63 similar projects alone just utilizing the same pallet structures that are proposed in this project. In performing our due diligence, staff visited 2 very similar facilities in the Los Angeles area operated by Hope of the Valley, who alone operate 6 such projects with over 900 beds. I have a few slides here that show the actual facilities themselves. The first slide that's before you today is the 8x8 pallet shelter structure. This is what the 50 individual units look like. They have power to them, where they have lighting, they have air conditioning and a heating source and a fire extinguisher. Although there's 2 beds represented here, they are designed for single occupancy, and the other side is typically used for storage, at least in California. They don't have running water or kitchen facilities. They're not intended to cook with, so those are all handled, those types of functions are handled in the communal shower restroom facilities and or community buildings. This is an example of what a typical project like this looks like. You can see the individual units, and how they're spaced accordingly. That's pretty representative of what we saw visiting the two sites that we visited. And here are a couple pictures. These are actually from the ones on the more colorful pictures here are from one of the projects that we visited down in the Los Angeles area, but it gives you a flavor for what these types of facilities typically look like. The Oildale Supportive Services Village builds upon the county's successful track record of the M Street Navigation Center, safe camping facilities, and safe parking sites. These facilities have moved over 240 people out of homelessness and into permanent housing over the past 2 years. Today, these facilities are responsible for sheltering over 430 individuals that would otherwise be sleeping in our parks, on our sidewalks, streets, or along the Kern River Parkway. 430 individuals. The statistics show that without projects like this and similar facilities throughout our community, the homeless population, and in particular that in the Bakersfield metro area, would be much greater than what it is today. There is no silver bullet to solving homelessness. It takes persistence, patience, and the right mix of services and an array of different tools, from women's shelters to family shelters, to navigation centers, to safe camping facilities, and daytime drop-in facilities, each meeting a different need within the homeless population and a combination of facilities, people, and services. The Oildale Supportive Services Village adds to our community's tool set. It will operate very similar to the M Street Navigation Center in that it will be referral only and does not provide services to drop-in individuals. Clients will reside at the supportive housing facility adhering to a strict curfew while receiving services on-site and off-site while working on a specific plan to move out of homelessness and into permanent housing. Like the M Street Navigation Center, this project will have 24-hour security with cameras, private security, and law enforcement. This 24-hour security and on-site management component will improve the safety of this community and disrupt the encampments, illegal dumping, and other illegal activities currently ongoing in that area. Like M Street, this facility will provide 3 meals a day, individualized housing, navigation, and case management services, mental health and substance use treatment, and medical care. This facility differs from the M Street Navigation Center in 2 ways. First, it offers 50 individual sleeping quarters as opposed to 1 large dormitory, which you would see at M Street or at Brundage Lane, for example, most places. Secondly, it will prioritize the homeless already in Oildale. We know that Oildale currently has a significant homeless problem, and yet there are no facilities within Oildale addressing that problem. This project is designed to do just that. If approved today, the county will proceed with project construction. Currently, we expect the project to be completed by the end of 2023. During the construction period, we will be issuing an RFP for service providers to operate the facility under contract with the county. This separation between RFPs for project construction and operations is being used intentionally for this project, which is not unusual. This provides additional time to work with the operator on a detailed operations plan while the longer construction period is underway. It allows the potential operator to know the project layout and a firm construction timing so they can plan and staff accordingly, and it allows the operator to provide more accurate bids and cost estimates as the time between their bid and start of operations is narrower. In fact, the county with M Street received project construction approval months ahead of entering into an operating agreement with CapK for that project. And similarly, the city of Bakersfield agreed to purchase the Brundage Lane property and proceed with construction months in advance of entering into an operational agreement with Mercy House. This is the same process the county is undergoing for this project. Both the construction and operations through December 31st, 2026 would be funded with the American Rescue Plan Act funding with no general fund impact. In February, we will be holding community meetings around the project location, including jointly with North of the River Parks and Recreation District at the Rasmussen Center to discuss the project and inform the operational plans and operational RFP. In fact, NOR is working very closely with the county on this project for the benefit of our mutual constituents, and in particular, their operations of the Rasmussen Senior Center, which has been a topic of discussion recently regarding this project. Accordingly, I've asked Steph Sanders, North of the River's Planning Construction Director, to join us this morning to address your board as part of the presentation on this item. When her comments are completed, she's going to turn it back to me, and I'm going to speak to the actual recommended action regarding this item.
Thank you, Mr. Zervis. Welcome.
Welcome. Good afternoon, Board of Supervisors and county staff. Thank you for this moment of open dialogue. My name is Steph Sanders. I am the Planning and Construction Director for North of the River Recreation and Park District. Our district, fondly referred to as NOR, was established in the 1950s by families who recognized the community was rapidly growing, and with it, the need for recreational activities and open space. The old aphorism, "It takes a village," was a part of NOR's creation and still rings true. For over 6 generations, NOR has been a part of picnics, free play, team sports, celebrations, and community parades. As of today, we program and maintain over 70 acres of public parkland within Oildale, the highest acreage of parkland per population throughout our 215 square mile jurisdiction. Our residents are passionate about their community, evident with the continuing success of the Oildale Community Action Team and the launch of Love Your Parks a few years ago. Because of dedicated Oildale neighbors, public agencies, and businesses working together, these programs work and are a positive example of leadership in an area oftentimes associated with adversity, hostility, and distrust. Rightfully so. In the decade I have served with NOR, the amount of crime, vandalism, and homelessness in our parks has drastically increased, not only in Oildale, but throughout our district and in metropolitan Bakersfield. There isn't one of our 24 park sites that hasn't had transient activity in them, no matter the demographic or neighborhood. Most of our staff response to homelessness issues exist within 1.5 miles of the proposed tiny home site, where approximately 50 acres of our public parks is impacted. That's over 70% of the parkland in Oildale, where NOR's Parks Rangers respond to the bulk of the calls, reporting camping inside picnic shelters and playgrounds, weapons threats, prostitution, drug paraphernalia, and domestic violence, making it incredibly distressing to simply walk your dog, enjoy a meal at the senior center, or let your children play. A majority of the complaints and worst-case scenarios exist around the Rasmussen Senior Center, which is directly west of the proposed tiny home site. We are thankful for our neighbors and staff that care about our parks to report illegal, undesirable, and plain uncomfortable activity, and the ability of our park rangers to respond on a personal level. It takes a village, and we are only a small piece of the puzzle. Homelessness is not just a county, a city, an NOR, or an Oildale issue. It's a societal problem. In talking to some of our homeless in our parks throughout the years, when they're struggling to find food and shelter, the idea of safety and security is second, albeit a looming threat when you're hungry. I will acknowledge that many of the homeless population have substance abuse issues, and this intensifies situations greatly. The county is proposing an answer to a societal problem that we as NOR cannot develop on our own. Our staff encounters homelessness deprivation multiple times a day, and although each person is different, the basic need for food, water, and shelter can be met for many with this project. Previously, NOR Park Rangers and the County Park Rangers teamed up to mitigate an intense influx of homelessness issues, specifically in NOR parks in Oildale. The strength of this relationship was dynamic. The combination of increased presence and pressure lessened the concentration of not only homeless incidents, but vandalism. It has proven to help and can mitigate the uncertainty of our community when enjoying our parks and facilities. With the renewed cooperation between NOR's rangers and the county rangers, homeless individuals in park sites could have direct local access to help during that small window of clarity. It would lessen the response time that our rangers wait for a call response and is provided by familiar faces that are already in our parks daily. Those same familiar faces are already a presence at our facilities, providing seniors escorts to their vehicles, ensuring our parks and facilities are safe places to recreate, and speaking to the homeless on a first-name basis. This is an immediate and effective collaboration that has proven successful and is only one of many ideas conceived in our first few conversations. Furthermore, it requires nothing more from either party and fosters trust and kinship in a time when law enforcement is stretched so thin. We are not here to take sides, nor to agree or disagree. We are here as part of the conversation and appreciative of the county for inviting us to have a seat at the table for the organization of this project. It's the first step introduced in this area to potentially curtail the damaging and undesirable activity that happens at our public parks and community centers. Homelessness is not going away. Our staff and park rangers see the burden of it daily. The solution lies in putting fingers down, being attentive to the problem, and being part of the solution together. This is going to take a village to untangle, and with the collaboration of many, the option of tiny homes can be part of the bigger answer. We don't get to pick our neighbors in life, but we can choose to be a good one. We choose big ideas, community, and humanity, the same factors that created North of the River Recreation and Park District 68 years ago. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sanders.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, as mentioned previously, the item before you today is simply to award the bid results based on the bidding documents approved by your board and released on November 8th for this project. A mandatory pre-bid job walk was performed on November 29th, 2022. It was well attended with lots of general contractors. In attendance, we had 4 bids that were received on December 13th, 2022. The 3 most competitive bids were within $127,000 of each other, and the winning bid was Elite Constructors of Bakersfield at a bid of $2,674,000. The item before you today is to request your board to identify Elite Constructors as the low responsive and responsible bidder, approve the contract, authorize the Chief General Services Officer to design or designate a sign, authorize General Services to release all bid guarantees, authorize the Auditor Controller to process the specified budgetary adjustments and accounting transactions. With that, that concludes my prepared remarks. I'm happy to answer any questions that your board may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zervis, for the report. Before we go to public comment, do any members of our board have any questions or comments for staff? Okay, seeing none, we'll begin public comment. Come on down. Just state your name for the record.
Good afternoon. My name is Rich O'Neill. I'm with the Kern River Parkway Foundation. And I'm here to ask, I spelled my last name, O-N-E-I-L, excuse me. I'm here to ask for you to reject all the bids and to remove this item from the agenda. We are in opposition to the location of this site at 201 East Roberts Lane. We asked for alternative site studies, which haven't been done, never have been done. And we also asked for the operation plan to be completed before we open the facility. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Good afternoon, Supervisor Flores and the board. My name is Janet Bowtell, B-O-W-T-E-L-L. I live at 500 Frontier for about 30 years, 1 block from Roberts Lane and 2 blocks from the proposed site. My concerns and questions are why the usual steps in doing this project does not seem to be happening. And the more I hear, and I guess some of it is because of the funding. I heard about this project only because I saw it in the newspaper. You state the project will have 50 cabins, and these cabins you say have 2 beds. That could be 100 people. You state there will be security administrative services, a referral service to the facility, and that they will be Oildale residents. You state that this is not a jail, that they can come and go as they please. You state they go to work, they go to school, and they go to doctor's appointments. If that is the case, why do I still have people going through my garbage, wandering my neighborhood, and I've had 2 vehicles stolen off my property? You say all the right things that's supposed to help the homeless, but a proposed project across the street from a senior center where they sleep on their property and close to a rehab center for women right down the street. There's also problems with the camping on the river, as you know, and we always constantly seem to have fires there. Now I'm worried that more homeless are going to be affecting my neighborhood and my property values will probably go down. Other facilities you state, the Navigation Center and the Brundage Lane Center, are not near residential areas. I'm sure there are better areas, even in Oildale, that might be a better fit for this project. Oildale already has a bad reputation for being nothing but tweakers, drug dealers, and drug users. We may not be a pretty neighborhood, and we're not tract homes. We're an old neighborhood. But we are hardworking people and care about our community.
Ms. Patel, your time has expired. Will you bring your remarks to a close? Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I hope you would really take time and maybe not approve this agenda and look for another location. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Mr. Chairman, I'm Eddie Lane. Thank you for this opportunity. What if a federal or state government announced that the nearby Best Western Motel that had been bought in 2016 with a commitment that it would eventually become an office building was now going to be used to house migrants from Venezuela and Haiti? No pre-entry drug screening, no pre-entry mental health screening, no pre-entry criminal record screening. Of course, the migrants can come and go during the day, wandering around Truxton Avenue and this building. Oh, by the way, your board can help in developing wraparound services. We, staff, will come and meet with you and help develop a plan. However, this site was approved by staff as required by law. Take it or leave it. With regard to wraparound services, just trust us. The money will be there. Maybe even some money for Kern County. Get the picture? We have the property. Trust us. Yet, when substantive questions are asked, they're ignored. I sent 10 questions around last Wednesday to the county's chief operations officer. No answers, no transparency. One key question, who's to be served? We were told by county staff, I have a memo here, that the challenging and homeless population on the Navigation Center waiting list, not capable of living in a community environment, would be served. And yet, we get something in the newspaper that says they're not going to be mentally ill or substance addictive. Common sense. Instead of talking just to paid staff, talk to the community. Listen to the community. Why weren't potential services for the homeless discussed with the community prior to any location being considered? Why isn't the issue of drug addiction the focus of any program for the homeless? Why not pause this site discussions and together develop a continuum of services prior to selecting any site? Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Lane. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon, Chairman, Supervisors, and staff. My name is David Cadell, K-A-D-E-L. I'm a 69-year-old senior citizen myself, retired 30-year veteran of Kern County law enforcement, the outreach community support pastor at Lifehouse Church at 3311 Manor Street in Oildale, and the current vice president of Oildale Community Action Team, one of the few remaining active nonprofit community service organization based in Oildale. Good afternoon, and thank you for this opportunity to speak in support of this planned Tiny Oaks Supportive Village project at 201 Roberts Lane in Oildale, which, as currently designed, will provide 50 safe and secure housing units and supportive services for some of our most at-risk citizens. I fully acknowledge that critical events over the past couple of years, both locally, nationally, and internationally, have created instability and uncertainty and, of course, fear in our citizenry. Staffing challenges in all of our support agencies has mandated that plans must change and we must adapt to the changing environment. And I'd like to thank the board, and particularly the 3rd District Supervisor staff, for their continuing commitment to meet the needs of our community. And I want to encourage our fellow citizens to support the board in meeting these needs through this facility. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Good afternoon, honorable board and staff. My name is Kathleen Arnold Chambers, Chambers. And first of all, I want to thank Ms. Steph Sanders, if she's still here. And I was so pleased to come back to North of the River. I was one of the original people who worked at North of the River, and we developed the Rasmussen Center and the wonderful community support that we've always had there. And I'd been away for a long time. I'm back as a senior. I dance at the Rasmussen, and what a wonderful place it is. So it's people like staff who have continued the tradition, and also the recreation heart that is to build positive things in our community and to work together. And so I want to say today, because I might have been a bit of a difficult person at times with staff, I care about the people. I care about seniors. I know how hard it is to even feel you have the right to have a voice at this age. But I want to say, if there's seniors in the audience, raise your hands if you're a senior. Let's be proud. We all have the right for a voice. This program has possibilities. It has potential. Oh, I wish it weren't where you want to build it. And I hear you've had it in place a long time. You know, it sounds like it is what it is. A part of me says, maybe a miracle will happen and there's this wonderful property that'll pop up. I don't know. But in the meantime, let's keep a positive spirit. People like staff, North of the River will be there to help. They'll be escorting seniors if there's danger. But one thing I'd like to ask of the county and of Supervisor Flores, who's my supervisor, my area, please keep listening to the people. We've got staff that are so good at what they do. But our seniors have the voice and the heart. We're the ones that live with the decisions. And we don't want to lose our sense of safety. I don't want to hear of people afraid to go out of their houses now because they think that someone might grab their purse.
Thank you, Ms. Chambers. Your time's expired.
Oh,
You
did I?
want to wrap up politely?
Okay, so I'm going to ask for
respectfully.
more meetings with you,
Yes, ma'am.
Supervisor
You
Flores.
have as many as you want. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon, Honorable Chair Flores and Board of Supervisors. I am Jeremy Tobias, CEO of CAPK. CAPK is the operator of the county's M Street Navigation Center. As one of the many homeless providers, we are working on solving a very complex and difficult issue. While we have taken many positive steps, continuing the improvements in this situation will require resourceful, adaptable, and diverse solutions. At the M Street Navigation Center, we accept direct client referrals only. And those referrals come from our many community partners. Examples would be Flood Ministry, Coordinated Entry Services, Kern County Behavioral Health and Recovery, Recovery Station, Alliance Against Family Violence, and Good Samaritan Hospital. The clientele we serve is diverse, and their situations vary widely. I'd like to share a quick example with you of a recent client and success story. I think it's important to put a face on this, of the type of clients we're talking about. I won't use the name because I don't want to share the client's name, but this client came to Bakersfield to attend Cal State Bakersfield and was an engineer major. He became addicted to drugs and dropped out of school. During his addiction, his family support was no longer available. While at M Street, he strived to improve but found himself in an overdose situation with fentanyl and was found unconscious. He survived and was given the opportunity to go to detox at Good Samaritan Hospital. Upon his release from detox, he met with Kern medical staff who offered Vivitrol, and he has since then not had drugs since that time. While at M Street, he has become sober. He is now reunited with his family and has moved into his own apartment this January, of just this month. So that's a quick example of the types of clients we're talking about. In closing, I'd like to let the board know that CAPK supports the Tiny Homes or the Supportive Service Villages project, as it increases the options and expands the resourcefulness that we utilize as we all battle this horrible issue together as a community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tobias. Next speaker.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name's Doug Gosling.
You'll have to speak to the microphone.
Good afternoon. My name's Doug Gosling. I represent William E. Hines Trust. They happen to be the seller of the select property to the county in 2015. And pursuant to a contract, the contract has certain covenants and restrictions within it. And so my client is very optimistic about what the county is looking at in the Oildale community. She's very happy that there is some opportunity to do some work with the homeless. However, when we've looked at some of the contracts and the conditions of the sale, it's raised certain questions. And I know that today the agenda item is to approve a construction item. And it appears at first blush that if the county were to proceed with a contract, it would be then in breach of certain conditions of another contract, which the county has. So I apologize for coming this afternoon. I would love to talk with staff some more. It just came up. So I wanted to come and address that. I have some written comments I'd like to provide for the record. That's for your file. Ms. Kraus, also, these are a courtesy copy for the supervisors. They're on double-sided, so they're a little smaller, so it wasn't too thick. And then I have some other copies for Mr. Alsop for your office and general services later. I'll be in touch. But on that note, when we looked at the contract and we looked at the conditions, and there's also some zoning issues which came up that we had some concerns about, and I look forward to speaking with Ms. Oviatt as well about those in the beginning time. However, at this time, I'd love for this matter to be referred to staff so that we can actually take a look at the contract issue, because I've not heard anything about it yet. I'm not seeing anything about it yet being discussed. Thank you for your time, board, chair, staff. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gosling. Next speaker, please.
Honorable Board Chair Flores, welcome, and distinguished board supervisors. Good afternoon. My name is Traco Matthews. I am the new Chief Health Equity Officer for Kern Health Systems. I am honored to speak on behalf of our CEO and Board of Directors in support of the Tiny Homes project being proposed by the county. There are several reasons why we see this as a win. First of all, we believe that homelessness is a housing problem. This is simply one more evidence-based housing first proven strategy, as Mr. Zervis said, in 63 other communities, that has been developed to continue reducing the number of people experiencing homelessness in our community. We support. Those in need of shelter at the specified zip code and near the property address are likely our members. Kern Health Systems has over 20,000 Kern Family Healthcare members in the 93308 zip code, so we know that many of the people experiencing homelessness in that area are represented by our health plan. We support. More importantly, those experiencing homelessness in that area are human beings who are valuable to our community and deserve shelter. We support. Some have suggested that by building tiny homes at this address, it will attract more people who are experiencing homelessness to the neighborhood. This has proven to be a misconception. For low barrier shelters recently built, specifically the M Street Navigation Center and the Brundage Lane Navigation Center, we support. We believe that this innovative housing first approach is actually far more likely to help residents in great need regain their footing, as Mr. Tobias just said, experience a restoration of dignity, gain stable access, consistent access to those wraparound services, and ultimately relaunch on a path to healthier lives and greater success in our community. We support. I would like to close by pointing out the fact that Mr. Zervis mentioned earlier. This is all part of a comprehensive plan to address homelessness from over 18 months ago. Every concept implemented to date has been successful. They have a great track record. I think we should trust their judgment. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Matthews. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon, Chair and Board, Honorable Board. My name is Donna Clopton, C-L-O-P-T-O-N. I am the president and founder of the Oildale Community Action Team. I work in the community and I live in the community where these tiny homes are going to be built. These are our neighbors. They're already there. Let's get them the services they need. Let's help them. I mean, they're already there. It doesn't make any sense. And Steph, you said it best. I love what she said with NOR. These are humans, and they need this. I can't tell you, I'm on first-term basis with a lot of them in the community, and I know that a lot of them are also wanting this. There are some that say, if you build it, I'm going somewhere else. Well, then go somewhere else. You know, let's do it. Let's move forward with this, and I appreciate you, and thank you, and I'm looking forward to this in my community.
Thank you, Ms. Clopton. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon, Board of Supervisors and county staff. My name is Steve Peterson. I'm the Director of Programs at the Mission of Kern County. And on behalf of our Executive Director, Carlos Baldovinos, and all of us on staff there at the Mission of Kern County, we are in full support of this much-needed project. The Mission has just celebrated 70 years of reaching out to help the homeless, the addicted, and the broken in our community. We have a great track record, as you've already heard. M Street has had a great track record as well. We also recently opened our transitional home facility for mothers and kids who have completed our 12-month addiction recovery program. All these women were formerly homeless women. This location is in Oildale on China Gray Loop, and it's a beautiful building there. We know how much this project is needed in that Oildale community, and we see the value of this tiny home project and know that it will be another tool in the toolbox to help get people off the streets, to move them forward, and help them with a brighter future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. Next speaker, please.
Hi, good afternoon, Chairman, members of the board. My name is Allison Burrows. I'm Deputy Director with the Kern Behavioral Health and Recovery Services Department, and I'm here speaking on behalf of the department. I'd like to express the excitement from our department that we share, and we're fully supportive of this Supportive Services Village in Oildale. As a partner and a significant collaborator in the resources to address homelessness, our department recognizes that the first thing needed to move people off the street is to ensure we have safe and secure places to transition them to. The city and county have demonstrated their ability to create programs that embed partnerships to wrap services around homeless individuals. This is essential to support health, wellness, and recovery, and to ensure the successful outcomes of keeping people off the street and preventing them from returning to homelessness. We understand the concerns of some community members and acknowledge that similar concerns were brought up when the city and county proposed building navigation centers, both on M Street and Brundage Lane. However, the success of these two programs speaks for themselves, as they have been essential resources and part of the housing continuum. Our department will partner with the county to ensure behavioral health and substance use services will be offered to the residents of the village. We are collaborating to help design the program and looking at models that exist outside of Kern and building on these successes in other communities. Homelessness is a complex issue. There's no one solution that will meet all the needs and solve the issues for every homeless individual. This project is an essential step in filling a gap. We know there are many more gaps to fill, but as a community, we need to continue one step at a time. This is a meaningful part of the solution, and we look forward to being a partner in this much-needed resource to end homelessness. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Burrows. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon, honorable supervisors. My name is Theo Deuce, and I am the director of the Brundage Lane Navigation Center. This is a difficult and complex issue you are considering today, and I am particularly sensitive to the concerns that have been raised by many of our citizens. They have very valid reasons for their concerns. As the director of the Brundage Lane Navigation Center, I can tell you that we opened our doors 2 years ago. But long before we opened our doors, we went through this very same process. We held public hearings and we listened very carefully to the concerned voices of our citizens, and they expressed the same concerns that you are likely to hear today. They were concerned that a homeless shelter in their neighborhood would mean more trash littering the streets, more aggressive panhandlers, more homeless encampments. They were concerned that their property values would go down and the crime rate would go up. Well, my purpose in being here today is to tell you that while all of those concerns are very valid and very reasonable, none of them actually came true. In fact, our presence has strengthened our community. By getting homeless people off of the streets and into a program, crime rates go down, and there is less litter on the streets, and there is less panhandling, and there are fewer homeless encampments. And surprisingly, today, most of those voices who were so opposed to our presence in their community have become some of our strongest supporters. And I believe that if this Oildale project is managed as well as we manage ours, that you will see the very same results in that community. Therefore, Mercy House lends its full support to this project. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Deuce. Next speaker, please.
Julie Carter. So I'm a property owner on East Roberts Lane. And while I appreciate all of you that have spoken in favor of the homeless shelter from your professional places, I respect that. And I certainly have the same hope about this Oildale project. We certainly need your help, and the homeless people there need your help also. And I think one of the things that I want to say is I think we don't want to be forgotten as the community, okay? Because there will be issues. Okay, let's be honest. There will be issues, and they will impact us. At my mobile home park, at 11 o'clock on Sunday night, I got a call from my alarm people, and someone had broken into my clubhouse. All right, it was someone wearing a hoodie, a backpack, and camo pants, which is typical of what we see in the homeless population. So I lost some money. I considered consultant fees because this burglar showed me where my weaknesses were in my alarm system and other things, so I learned some things. But the truth is, that's what happened, and that's what happens to the people in my mobile home park and the people in the community. And again, I'm gonna say it again, don't forget us. You didn't talk to us before you did this, 2021, and we're finding out about it in 2022. That doesn't make you a good neighbor, right? Even though it wasn't required by law, someone could have come out there and give us the heads up. And I've met with meetings with my seniors, and I've talked with people, and they're worried. And at this point, what I'd say we're worried about is the details of the operational plan. That's what we're worried about. Because these are nice words, y'all say nice words, y'all give us the success stories, and that's fine, but we need the details of what's gonna happen at this location. And what are we supposed to do if things do go wrong? What's the plan for that? And I don't mean big wrong, I mean little wrong maybe, right? Of negative things that impact us. So I'm just asking the county, as you move forward, to not forget the community there on East Roberts Lane. Not north of East Roberts Lane, but East Roberts Lane. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Carter. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Joseph Leon, L-E-O-N. And I know that we need some services for the homeless and other people in our community. However, to talk about the M Street Navigation Center or the Brundage Lane facility, how many houses are across the street from each one of those units, those complexes? How many senior citizen programs are conducted across the street from those two facilities? You know, you have the board, the Kern County owns a facility on 1900 Roberts Lane that's vacant. It used to be a corporation yard, I think. And it has bathroom facilities, electric, water, all those things that you have to bring to this facility already there. Has the board considered 1900 Roberts Lane as a use? That facility is now against it's up against industrial users. It's not across the street from a school, a senior citizen, a neighborhood. And I think people need to take more consideration, and when you're looking for a site to do an in-depth, considerationable look to say, where are you putting this at? And how is it going to impact people? Yes, we're all here to help people. That's the main thing to do. But think about the next move, where it's going to be and what's going to happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Leon. Next speaker, please.
Thank you. My name is Lisa Smith, and I do not live in Oildale. I live off of Stockdale Highway by the FedEx. I share the concerns that I'm hearing from the people who live in Oildale that are here today, and I, very late, gave you an article from the Bakersfield Californian that describes my experience living next to a property that was repeatedly broken into by homeless people for 3 years. That said, I support the Tiny Homes Village, because if people have a place to go where they can get help with staying alive, they won't be roaming the neighborhood breaking into my house and my backyard, which they did. They won't be flooding my property because, as they told me, we're just trying to stay cool and get some water. They won't be out on the lawns, as they are now, in front of Outback Steakhouse, using it for campgrounds and using it for bathrooms in the middle of the day. They will have a place to go. Let us not forget, the last statistic that I read is that 40% of Kern County's homeless people are families with children, people between the ages of 18 and 24, and those who honorably served our country as veterans. If we can give them a place to go where they feel safe and not sleeping in a communal area that frightens the dickens out of my students who are sometimes looking at a shelter or a car, then they're not on the street. I want to thank you all and for your presentation, Mr. Zervis, because a lot of this is brand new information to me. I can honestly say that if there was some kind of a navigation center like this that we could fit near where I live to get people off Stockdale Highway and off of Ming, I would support it fully. I do have one question
Mrs.
about...
Smith, the time's elapsed, so you want to wrap up your
It's
comment?
just a question real quick. On the slide, the proposed slide, there's a roadway that runs between the senior center and the side property of the center. That is a 2-lane road, and I just urge you to take a look at that very, very carefully, especially on food distribution days at the senior center that I go to.
Okay.
It might need to
Thank you. We'll look into that when we have staff
Thank you.
come back and talk. Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Hello, my name is Stephanie Yoder. I am an Oildale resident and small business owner, also a board member of Oildale Community Action Team. We're very excited about this small, tiny homes village that is starting. We have noticed that when we have talked to a lot of people in the homeless communities, they're very eager to help us clean up, to help keep their areas clean, even ask for extra cleaning materials so that they can keep it clean the next day and moving forward. Knowing this, once we get them into a home and to have some accountability, I see nothing but good happening for them and the positive steps that we'll take in their life. Also, we're always going to have homeless problem. We're always going to have people arguing different sides on what the perfect location is for our homeless demographic. But I would much rather see, excuse me, these tiny homes, excuse me, versus just pop-up tents sporadically placed with trash and things of that nature. It's going to look so much nicer for our area, and it's going to, I think, really bring positivity to the area as well, and accountability for the ones who want to get up off the streets and to really look into their future. And I think we'll have nothing but good from this, and we're very excited.
Thank you, Ms. Yoder. Next speaker, please.
You're smiling. Hello, my name is Georgia Michaud, Micheau. I was a psychiatric nurse with Kern County Mental Health for over 15 years. My biggest concern at this point is I'm worried about the homelessness and being across from a senior center. The panhandling, I've seen it happen in all my years of psychiatric nursing. If they don't get what they want, they become aggressive. These are older people, anywhere from the ages of 60 to 92. If that happens, then they're not going to want to come to the senior center anymore. What's going to happen to the senior center? That was one of my concerns. My other concern was the businesses in Oildale. If you notice, we drove down the street, there's a lot of them are all closed up. If they're not closed up, they got bars on the windows. Why is that? Because we either have drug addicts or we have people that are homeless, trying to get into it, burn places down. In my years as a psych nurse, I was a case manager. I had lots of clients on Roberts Lane, biggest addict place in the world. And this is where you want to put people? At the end of a street where there's no businesses, there's no place for medical treatment, there's no place to look for a job. It's at an end of a street. It's at a dead end. What's it gonna do for them? Again, I think at that part of the area, by the senior center, you have the most vulnerable people there in the area. My other thing was, I was concerned when I read something that said, staff decided not to consult the community prior to bringing this to the Board of Supervisors. I'm just a curiosity. What staff was it and were they qualified? Another thing was, according to the public records, the Kern County Service Gap Analysis, we find that only 147 of 500 new shelter beds are occupied, a 70.6% vacancy rate.
Ms. Michaud, your time has elapsed. You want to bring your
That's right.
comments to a close?
That's fine. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you so much. Next speaker, please.
My name is Sue Meek, M-E-E-K. I have lived in Oildale for 80 years. My only concern is Oildale. I know all of these people are speaking in support of this. I'm not speaking against it. But what I am asking is, can you only guarantee that people from Oildale will go into these shelters? If you can't guarantee me that, I read in the paper where it said that people from all over the county could be brought in to the tiny houses. If you can't guarantee me it will only be people from Oildale, then you're adding to Oildale's problems. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Meek. Next speaker, please.
Hi, my name is Brenda Harper, H-A-R-P-E-R. We do
Sorry,
have
what's your first name? I didn't-
Brenda.
Brenda, thank you.
My concern is, yeah, we have the senior citizen, you know, where I live in the mobile home park. We already have theft going around. We see it on our Ring cameras, everything else. But if you consider the people across the street, like the Robertson Stables, we got that. We got Rancho Real. Let's think about the horses. I can't tell you a number of times at night, we get a call that the homeless has lit up the stables, scaring our horses and stuff like that. What's gonna stop that? I work for Crunch Fitness. Every morning, there's people behind Crunch Fitness on North Chester and China Gray Loop, lighting fires. You tell them to put out the fires? No, they're cold. So they're lighting fires by our, our businesses and stuff like that. It's all the homeless, they're using it as a bathroom. I'm not against not helping them, but not where we live, because we have a lot of seniors that can't, fend for themselves. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and honorable board members. Jim Wheeler with Flood Ministries. My heart goes out to the people near this this project, but it's something that we need. And, I feel like we've been here before, as Theo mentioned earlier. We went through this with Brundage Lane Navigation Center. We went through this with the M Street Navigation Center. As Supervisor Couch knows, we went through this with a project in Delano. All of the fears, all of the concerns, for the most part, they have, they're unfounded. Because we know what we're doing. There's expertise that's being applied to the development of the project, and also there's going to be expertise applied to the operational plan. I'm confident of that. I did just want to address one thing. There was an article in the paper that said only 147 of the 500 beds are full. That's just not true. That's inaccurate information. We keep stats, Flood does. We're the primary referring agency for the shelters. The last week I have the stats for was the last week of December. We had 128 requests for shelter that we had to turn away because there was not room for those specific shelter beds. Our beds are full. And if we want to address unsheltered homelessness while we're waiting for permanent supportive housing to be built, we have to have a temporary place for people to go where they can get the services they need. And there are people on the street who will not go to a congregate shelter like M Street or Brundage Lane. They're just not. They have issues. They have mental health issues. They have anxiety issues. But they will go to a place where they have their own unit and where there is some organization and where they have access to community services. And so we need the project. And a lot of the folks that we deal with are in Oildale. Your predecessor, we used to respond to calls all the time in Oildale for people who are homeless, and there is a need there, and we're here ready to help address that, and I ask for you to support the project.
Thank you, Mr. Wheeler.
Thank you.
Next speaker, please.
My name is Tiffany Nichols, Nichols. I am going to say a couple of things. I do have concern with the welfare and the safety of our seniors at our senior center. I would like for that to be part of what is addressed on a daily basis. That's going to be important. Security, I'm hoping that it's going to be on site. I think that this will help so much because we do have so many homeless in our area. This is a very small drop in the bucket for the amount of beds that we're going to need. The homelessness is just absolutely exploded. There's many reasons. I'm sure I have no clue what all of the reasons are. But I honestly think that as long as there is a good filtering system to filter out the massive amounts of trouble, and we actually have people who want to be helped in this facility, I think that that will help some of the homeless issues that the senior center is having right now. I also would like to ask that if Flood is going to be one of the referring agencies, that they be available evenings and weekends and not just Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, whatever their hours are now. And also possibly putting Cap K in charge of it because they're doing a really good job with the M Street. But I think this is going to be good for our community. It's going to help us reach out to those people in our community that need a hand up, and we will be able to get them into housing. Once you have a place where you can shower, sleep, you're fed, and you're taken care of, then that's just a step closer to employment and being self-sufficient, and I think that this is a good start.
Thank you, Ms. Nichols. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. Congratulations on your election and members of the board. I'm Michael Turnipseed, representing the Kern County Taxpayers Association. Let's talk bluntly. I work downtown. The homelessness has gotten massively worse the last 2 months downtown. There are actually tents on Chester Avenue last week up against the Kern Community College District. Not one, not two, there were 5 or 6 at 8 o'clock in the morning because they weren't moving because last Monday was a holiday. I became a victim last January 2nd. I came to my office to work, a nice quiet day, nobody to bother me. My car got pummeled. Rear window, driver window, engine hood, the driver door and the back door, all just pammeled with a guy with a piece of concrete in his hand. You want to watch a nice video of a very disturbed person? beating the crap out of a poor defenseless white SUV, I have it for you. This is part of the solution. It's not the only solution. But we've spent millions and millions of dollars in this community, and it seems the homeless populations are now, after going down for a while, seem to be getting worse. And they need to be addressed because, and it's not in your jurisdiction, it only took an hour for the police to show up, and that's only because I had to call the mayor after 45 minutes and said, I'm sorry you're waiting here, I want to go home. And well, first thing she asked, well, what do you think the value is? This came from a policeman. Well, I'm insured. Well, what's your deductible then? Well, my deductible's $500. Oh, that's going to make it a misdemeanor. But if I was paying the whole thing with no insurance, it's probably $5,000. Oh, well, that'll make it a felony. Something is wrong here. You need to fix it. Not just you, the city council need to get together and address what's really going on and what's not happening here. A little bandage here and a little bandage there. We support every bed we can get because there are people who are getting beat.
You want to wrap up?
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Turnipseed. Sorry about that incident.
Good afternoon. My name is Anna Lavin. I am the Executive Director of the Bakersfield Kern Regional Homeless Collaborative, and I am here to give my tremendous support for this particular project. I don't want to simply repeat all of the amazing points that were already brought up by Mr. Zervis as well as our other service providers. I would say this. The reality for us is that we need lots of options. This presents for us another option for our toolkit. And we know that we have many individuals in different types of subpopulations, and you've heard me talk about this before, for whom congregate sheltering is either not appropriate or not a good fit for them. It's not a one-size-fits-all solution. For our youth, it's not necessarily a good place for them. For our elderly, for whom we have substantially growing numbers of elderly, it's not necessarily a right fit for them. For our veterans, again, those who may be suffering from PTSD or some other pieces, they really need places with reduced distraction environments where they can have a greater sense of security and privacy. And in some cases, congregate sheltering doesn't provide that for those we are trying to serve. The thing I do want to emphasize, though, is that there's been a lot of focus on what it looks like for somebody when they are in essentially the worst day of their life, right? They're experiencing crisis. And what we forget is the amazing transformative possibilities for individuals and humans if we provide them with those opportunities. And what happens for us, the proof is kind of in the pudding for us when we look at our data. When we're able to house folks, for those who are housed and provided with services, 2 years later, 9 out of 10 of those are still living in a housed state, right? And so I think that shows for all of us the amazing amount of transformation that can take for somebody who was hurt to being healing and to have that sense of resilience where they can transform into that neighbor that we all want to have.
Thank you, Anna. Time's elapsed. You want to?
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Deborah Johnson. I'm the president and CEO of the California Veterans Assistance Foundation. I'm going to kind of echo something that Anna said and not regurgitate everything that everybody else has said. But what I want to really kind of strike on is something that somebody said, and that's be a good neighbor. The success of this project for the county and for this community is to be a good neighbor. The California Veterans Assistance Foundation, we operate transitional housing in a residential neighborhood in Oildale. We have neighbors on all sides of us across the street, and I can tell you, it's not always easy to run a facility like this in a residential neighborhood, but the key to it is to be a good neighbor. Have those supportive services. Have communication with your neighbors. I think that that is really key and critical. The impact of this project, it's innovative. It's going to be in a community serving a group of people that already live in that area. That is critically important. Because like I said, not only does my organization operate in Oildale, and I don't know how many complaints you get about us through the Board of Supervisors, probably not very many, but we can make this project work. We also operate South Bakersfield, Decatur Street, Buena Vista Street, so this can be done. These types of projects are already being done in our community, but again, I really want to point out the key success of this project is going to be a good neighbor to the community, to the Rasmussen Center, and to OCAT, and I think that this project is going to be very fruitful. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon, Supervisors. My name is Lester Surgener, Surgener. I'm a business owner within a half mile of the project and a homeowner within a mile at River Ranches. I've had the opportunity to speak with several of you today, getting me up to speed, and I want to thank you for that. I also just got a copy of the claim that has been sent to the county, and I would like to second the first gentleman's request that this be taken off the agenda because, according to this claim, that the funds used to purchase that property were from the sale of a fire station on Rosedale. It was also with the understanding that it would be used to replace the fire station there on Roberts. I had a brief moment to talk with the fire chief. I think it would be an excellent idea that we could get rid of both those fire stations, in Oildale, and replace with a much nicer, newer facility. Especially with the industrial footprint we have in North Oildale. That is it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Surgener. Next speaker, please.
Lauren Skidmore with the Open Door Network. Honorable members of the board, thank you for allowing us to speak. The Open Door Network is formerly known as the Bakersfield Homeless Center and the Alliance Against Family Violence and Sexual Assault. We support thousands of clients each year that come to our doors looking for homeless services and domestic violence, sexual assault, or human trafficking services. One of the key components for all of our services is our jobs development program, which District 3 has been a huge supporter of in prior years, and we have a dedicated team that just is cleaning up the streets of Oildale. I can say with this project and in being a partner with our homeless providers is that we would be able to utilize this facility in identifying new crew members to continue to clean up the streets of Oildale and to be able to expand more crew members across the county of Kern. Right now we employ over 120 individuals that are either current or formerly homeless. These are also individuals that could have been incarcerated and in need of some type of basic job skills and development. And this program and this facility would be a great place for us to do outreach and to provide job development to these individuals. So we are committed from the Open Door Network to be able to provide workforce development to this site, and no matter who the provider is, we'll be there to support you. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Skidmore. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon, Christian Clegg, City Manager, City of Bakersfield. Members of the board, it's great to be together with you.
Welcome.
I genuinely understand and appreciate the need to listen carefully, ask good questions, give close consideration to projects like this. Completely confident that your staff will find the solutions that address this in a good, balanced way. The City of Bakersfield firmly supports the Supportive Services Village, and let me tell you why. Homelessness is issue number one in our community, no question. I think we all know that. Very complex, has been pointed out, needs a lot of solutions and all the ideas that we can put together for it. I actually want to thank the county for working so well with the city over the last few years. From our standpoint, particularly the County Administrator's Office and Behavioral Health, for investments in the infrastructure that get at our region's mental health, substance abuse, and housing crisis. Over the last couple of years, just as a reminder, city and county and community partners have worked together to really completely change the homeless services landscape. 3 years ago looks very different from today. Over the past couple of years, we've added 600 beds to the region. There's another, with this project, an Open Door Network, another 150 beds in progress and in the pipeline. But despite all of that progress, as was pointed out, we have no beds today. All of the beds are full. This is not the time to stop making progress. Now is the time to keep moving forward, and we need all of the solutions on the table. And there is unprecedented synergy and energy amongst the service providers. This is not a one-off project or proposal. It's part of a multifaceted approach for which, again, we need all of the solutions. I do also want to thank our homeless service providers, their shelters and outreach mental health, who've been working so hard through this pandemic to make this all happen. City and county homeless services are only as good as our service providers, and we've come a long way in building our capacity, and we've all stretched to meet the moment.
Thank you, Mr. Flynn.
As noted, I do understand really well the questions and considerations being pointed out. As we constructed our navigation center, as was pointed out, we have heard many of those same concerns, and we worked through those concerns, and today our biggest opponents are now on our team. They're with us.
Thank you.
Thank you. This won't solve all problems, but without it, it definitely will not solve homelessness.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Larry. Next speaker, please.
Hello, I'm Sharon Briel, B-R-I-E-L, and if you were to go out and talk to the community right now and you said, we're going to put this tiny encampment next to a senior center and a teen girl drug treatment program, what do you think? Do you think that's a good idea? You'd probably find out that the common man would say, doesn't sound like a good idea to me. And in fact, last night on Channel 17, 17% of the people responding said it was not a good idea. The reason I'm not against the idea of having a homeless encampment. I think it's a good idea. I think the location is really bad, and that's what I'm here to say. I'm really troubled by the fact there was no outreach to the community. While I don't live in Mr. Flores' district, it still bothers me that there was silence about it until it was too late. The reason why I'm concerned also is that the county has not done a good job protecting the Kern River habitat, or we wouldn't have all the people down there camping and causing fires. So in that respect, I don't feel like I can trust what you're telling me because you haven't performed in terms of doing that. Lastly, if I can remember what the last thing is, I just recently came across a very comprehensive study put out by all the different agencies that talk about what's going on with homeless. And the main thing that I came away with, that they didn't have enough staff to do the referral. Since this program is going to be run on referrals, I want to make sure that you're aware that right now you're understaffed for people to actually bring in and evaluate the people so that they get the right people in the right places. So please pay attention to those things. They're very important to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brill. Next speaker, please. Okay, I'm not seeing any more public comment. I'll go back to staff. Mr. Zervis, Mr. Alsop, there's a lot of questions that were raised that, oh, I take that back. Do we have one more? Please come on down.
My name is Royce Pinson. I live in East Bakersfield. I'm a homeowner. And I'm concerned about not only the homeless, but the drug population. It doesn't seem to be any or much help there. And I live right next door to a 24-hour drug facility. And we need some help in that area on River Boulevard. And it doesn't seem like we get much. I don't know the answer. I know I go to a church, it's called Church on the Way Ministry in Oildale. We do outreach. I worked for Teen Challenge before as a counselor in Hawaii, but I'm really concerned there's not much going on over there, except a lot of theft, and I've been robbed 6 times. And it bothers me that the community is not really reaching that part of the of the area where I live, East Bakersfield, Jefferson Park, there's some. But other than that, in my heart, I would say it's a little bit rough where we are, the senior citizen, that something like put the village there, but in a lot of ways I agree, because we have to do something to follow up on this idea. Would be advantageous, really, to follow through on it. And I believe we could do it. If we work as a team, we work as in the public and the community together. So I'd say yes, it's a good idea. Other areas, I don't know if we could find any in Oildale that would really be that advantageous. So that's kind of my heart, and I really appreciate all the ideas we have.
Thank you, Mr. Pinson.
And I just want to thank you for it.
Appreciate your comments. Next speaker, please. I'm going to go slow to make sure there's no one else. Okay, I think that does it. Mr. Alsop, would you like to respond to some of our comments and questions, or maybe Margot? I think there were some contractual issues and safety issues and mitigation and everything.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I want to hand it over to Mr. Zerfus in a second. He's got a list of things I think he's wanting to respond to. I did want to say to Ms. Brill's comments, you know, this is not a homeless encampment. A homeless encampment you can find if you go down to the Kern River, or you could find, you know, under the underpass. This is a facility with 4 walls, with 1 entrance, with wraparound services and staffing, and small homes with roofs for people to reside in to get help. There are bathrooms, there are showers, there are 3 meals a day, there are laundry facilities. I would also like to point out that I've heard a lot of folks talking about the conditions in this area of people that live. And by the way, I live less than a mile from this site. I did the calculation on Google Earth. I think Ms. Chambers probably is close by too. She's in my neighborhood. But as the crow flies, I'm less than a mile from this site. There's a lot of homeless activity and other types of activity in this area. The nice lady, and I'm sorry, ma'am, I can't remember your name, and I don't see her in the audience, but the woman from the mobile home park talked about the fact that it was burglarized recently. Well, this facility's not there. These things are happening even though there is not a facility there. The whole point of this is to try and provide something to help address the situation with people in that area. If you have people receiving services who are referred, who have accepted that referral, who are receiving services, who are in a place, getting help, eating, being able to bathe, and all these other things, they are less likely to go out on the street vandalizing, stealing, begging for food, begging for handouts, et cetera. That's the whole point of this facility. So this is meant really to address the situation that these folks are describing to us here today. But Mr. Zervis, do you have some other items you want to cover?
Yep, thank you. I know it's been a lengthy discussion here. I'll keep a couple of these comments just brief. I think Mr. Alsop touched on a big piece here, which is a lot of what we heard today is concerns over the illegal activities, the homeless-related activities that are occurring right now, whether that be in the riverbed or Mr. Turnipseed's car getting demolished or whatnot. And that's exactly what we are working to curtail. through projects like M Street, through Brundage Lane, as we add these different tools to our tool belt in order to get people off the street when they're willing to accept help and get into a program that gets them on the right track to get out of an exit homelessness permanently or close to permanently. You heard from Ms. Lavin that said that 2 years later, 9 out of 10 folks that exit these programs into permanent supportive housing stay there. That's what we're trying to achieve. You've also heard today that a lot of those facilities are at capacity now, and that to Flood's comment, Mr. Wheeler's comment about a number of individuals having to be turned away last month because there weren't available beds. Well, available bed space is two things. One, it's our tool to help people that are willing to accept help, and that's what we're trying to do right now. But for those that aren't willing to accept help, available bed space is a requirement for us in order to enforce the anti-camping and illegal encampment ordinance. So really for those that feel there's a lack of the enforcement side, realize that these things work together. We have to have the services and available bed space, and we have to do more to enforce against the illegal activity that is maybe related to homelessness. Sometimes we know it is, sometimes we assume it is, but these things all have to work together as we try to address these concerns throughout our community. A couple just responses for some comments that I heard from the audience. There was I believe it was Battelle, that question said that there were 100 or 50 of these units with 2 beds, that's 100 individuals. Our code, our permit, it says right now that those are only inhabitable by single occupancy. So we will work with them to try to make accommodations for couples if possible, but today this site would be limited to 50 individuals, 1 person per each of those cabins. So it's not 100 individuals, it's 50 individuals. There's discussion about substance addicted and mentally ill. We hear these things a lot in this discussion. And that can mean a variety of things. Yes, there are people struggling with substance use or mental health issues, but there's a whole spectrum of what that means. There are people that are suffering from those conditions that will work well within a facility like this, just like they do at M Street today or Brundage Lane today, and they're receiving treatment for those things, and they're on a path to recover from those issues and get on the right path. There are people that are in more serious substance addiction states or mental health states, and that's not what this facility is for. There are different tools for that. We currently are under construction with 2 new psychiatric facilities. I mean, that's one tool that addresses a similar type of issue. So just realize some people will say, well, you said that no substance abuse or mentally health issues will be in this facility, or that's exactly what it's for. The point I'm making is that there is a spectrum of issues out there, and that's what our housing navigators, that's what the intake people do in order to make sure that the person being referred to a program like this, or M Street, or Brundage Lane, or whatnot, is of the right level of acuity and has the right needs to fit that particular bed space. So I hope that it's not a black and white issue with regards to substance use and mental health, and there are a variety of different levels of care that us, the county, the city, other homeless providers, and the medical community at large has to attend to depending on the particular situation for that individual. I'm going to go ahead and stop, and would be happy to answer any further questions or follow-up that your board may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Any board comments or concerns, Supervisor Peters?
Thank you, Chairman Flores. So that was one question I was going to ask that you addressed, Mr. Zervis, but the anti-camping ordinance. But along those lines, do you have any idea right now how near or far we are to hitting that number of available beds to be able to enforce the ordinance?
So we are enforcing the ordinance now as we can. We do both enforcement and the shelter and bed space. So we're doing that now. Now we need to do more. And part of enforcement especially with respect to illegal activities that may not just be illegal camping, but other types of illegal activities, is our ability to have enough jail space and supervision in order to do something with folks that violate the law, whether that be, I'm thinking in particular of Mr. Turnipseed's vehicle right now, where there's obviously illegal activity going on. The item that your board's taking up after this is another effort by us in order to increase that available bed space to further help in this area on the enforcement side of illegal activity. So to answer your question, Supervisor Peters, there's not a fixed number that we're aiming for. This is a collective effort. The city is currently adding 100 beds over at Brundage Lane. Our project here adds 50. Open Door Network has a significant project underway. I think we're all working to achieve that level, but we know we're not there yet because we still have 128, I believe was Mr. Wheeler's number on the turnaway list for last month, and we continue to see the folks camping in public spaces that aren't on that turnaway list, and that's both an enforcement and an available bed challenge that we're working on.
Thank you. This might be a dumb question, but just as far as how that would work, or how this would work at this facility, what does the accountability look like? I mean, as far as our CAO, Mr. Alsop, was saying, we're providing a home, we're providing showers, we're providing food, and obviously this isn't a jail. They're not stuck there. There is the freedom to come and go, but they're referred here. What are the expectations of them that are the residents that'll be at this facility, so we know that they're not just going to leave and start panhandling next door?
Yes, and I look back because I know we have several of our operators here from M Street, and I think that's really a similar model as to what we're following here or over at Brundage Lane. There are, folks that go in are assessed by different service providers. They are put on a plan and have a list of things they need to accomplish in order to exit homelessness. And as long as they're working on that plan and going through those steps, that really is what's expected of them. I know at M Street, they also sign off on a good neighbor policy. There are certain expectations we have that they're not panhandling on the corner, they're not loitering in our neighboring businesses, and if you go by M Street, you don't see those things going on because it's a two-way street. Those folks are trying to get help. That's why they're there. And so we have expectations for them as far as how they behave within our community and how they progress along their pathway to achieving the things they need to do to exit homelessness. Now, that can be everything from very basic, gathering the right documents, right? Getting their social security card, getting their driver's license, working with counselors, doing a number of things to get them ready to move out. And that's this facility, like M Street. I think the average stay at M Street somewhere between 3 months and 9 months as people work through that plan to exit homelessness. Now, in M Street, if someone's diligently doing their part and working on their plan, but there's no available housing vouchers to move them into a permanent housing locations, we don't just kick them out if they're doing their part. That is the other challenge in this matrix, is making sure we've got enough permanent housing to move them into permanent supportive housing, to move them into after they exit a facility like this. So there is definitely accountability. They work with their housing navigators, their caseworkers on a regular basis, and I can definitely call on. I see Rebecca Romano here. She is works with CAPK and actually manages that facility, and she could actually speak in much better detail than I can about the specific operations of that plan.
Thank you, Mr. Zervis. One more question, and I think this might be for County Council, but this claim that was brought up, is there I don't know how to handle that as the board at this time, if that's something that we need to pause to look further into, or if that's something that we need to, or that County Council's office is already familiar with, or where we stand on that.
Supervisor Peters, through the chair.
Haven't had a chance to do anything except take an incredibly quick glance at it. Deputy Brian Van Wyk is seated across from me, and I think he's had a slightly longer moment, but it would be premature for us to weigh in because we haven't had a chance to really look at it. However, in that quick glance, I see nothing that would stop the board from moving forward today.
Understood. Thank you. That's all for me for now, Chairman.
Thank you, Supervisor Peters. Supervisor Couch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you to those of you that came out today to speak. And I understand, and I'm not trying to be condescending by this, but I truly do understand the concerns that you have about the facility where it would be located. And they're valid. Your concerns are valid. I went through, Mr. Wheeler mentioned, we went through a similar process in Delano and had similar concerns. And it wasn't even that near a residential neighborhood, but it was going to be kind of a dual use in a facility that was used during the day and it would be used for the supportive services in the evening. I was jotting down quickly all the providers and all the people that are here that are working on this problem, and it's extensive. I'm not even going to name them all because it would take too long. But thank you, those of you that are in this business of trying to address homelessness and help people. We do have some success stories. They're one at a time. There isn't a mass answer where you can get 100 people or 200 people off the street. You get one at a time, and it's on their own time frame. But I want to drill down a little bit on what Supervisor Peters was just asking about. Partly because as I look through the documents that Mr. Gosling gave us, I noticed that my signature is on them. That I was the chairman of the board at the time when we approved the purchase of this property. And so I'm just going to talk in some general terms that I walk us through this. We purchased that property with the intention, at least it says in the documents, of upgrading Station 64 or moving Station 64. That's what it says. I'm assuming, because it's in those same documents, that was represented to the seller, rather, the Hines family. And, you know, that's 2015. And things change. We're 2023. We haven't done anything with that fire station for lots of reasons. But the question in my mind is, do we have an obligation to only use that property as a fire station? Or do we, having bought that property with, and I think the comment was we used the proceeds from the sale of Station 65, but really that's general fund money. Am I correct in that, first of all?
If I could have Mr. Zervis answer that, he's the money person involved in this.
The money, my understanding, and I have not reviewed the documents myself, my understanding is the money to purchase that property came from the sale of a different fire station. So it's presumably from the fire fund and not the general fund. I'm assuming that's the case. That original property was purchased from the fire fund. So as part of all of this project, we would be reimbursing the fire fund for the cost of the property, so that use of money is not an issue.
Okay, so I guess my issue comes, or my question is really, what are we doing today if you review the documents and you decide, hey, we've stubbed our toe here, what do we do then?
And if I could, Supervisor Couch, through the chair, I'd like to ask Deputy Brian Van Wyk to respond to that question.
So I haven't had a chance to look at the documents, the claim that was presented today very closely. I took a brief look at it. It does appear that we have a difference of opinion with Mr. Gosling as to what is said in those documents. He characterized those documents as containing covenants and conditions relating to the sale. Now, I think that's a big claim in a document, in a legal document. Obviously, we have to be very precise, and it's difficult to speak to that without closely reviewing the documents. Based on my reading of those documents, I disagree with the way that Mr. Gosling characterizes them.
What are you looking at specifically when you say that? Are you looking at the, and I don't know, I'm not a real estate expert, real estate attorney. Are you looking at the purchase agreement?
I would want to look at the purchase agreement, the deed.
Is that included in this in this stack, the deed? The purchase agreement is right here, but I did not see the deed as I was looking through it. Mr. Gosling, do you have it available?
I do not.
Okay, thank you. And you don't have it?
I don't have it with me today.
So what happens if we move forward with this and we find that the deed says, or there's a deed restriction?
Well, I can tell you that the deed does not contain a deed restriction. It's a very form grant deed.
We don't have the deed, but you know it doesn't say that.
I don't have it in front of me,
Okay.
but I know that it doesn't say that.
We do have the deed, and Mr. Van Wyck is correct. There are no restrictions.
So to characterize, I don't know what happened with these conversations, so I'm gonna try to characterize it and tell me if this is what happened. Maybe somebody from the fire department knows, or maybe general services was involved. We said to the seller, we need some property for a fire station. They sold it to us with the understanding it would be a fire station. 7 years later, things are different. We need it for this project. We are able to do that based on the way it was sold and the deed that we currently have.
That is our belief, yes.
Okay, thank you.
And if I could also add, you asked what would happen if you proceeded today, and then it was realized that, I think you said we stubbed our toe.
Yeah, that we should not have proceeded.
Right. Well, I'm confident that you can move forward today as the staff recommendation is included. What you are doing is you're approving the signing of the agreement, but you could amend it so that you approve the signing subject to council approval, which would then give us a moment in time to take a deeper look at the claim that has been filed, and assuming that we remain confident in our position, then the county can sign the contract and move forward, and if not, we can come back and share that with the board.
I think that's a good idea. Thank you, Council. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Supervisor Couch. Supervisor Scrivener.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I want to tell everybody who came here to speak on both sides of this issue, we very much appreciate it. To those of you who have concerns about this location, I understand your concerns very well. For those that are working in the various community efforts to address the homeless issue, I want to thank you for your efforts. But I particularly want to thank those of you that are just members of the public that are volunteering with these various community organizations in Oildale that just have a heart for your community and are trying to better it. To me, that really shows a servant's heart, and that's the type of engagement that we love to see no matter what the issue is and no matter which community it is. And so I do realize that every location that we have approved, whether it's M Street or the cities, their approval of the Brundage location, Supervisor Couch alluded to it, and Delano has seen opposition. The location is always going to be a concern, it seems, to those that are proximate to whatever project is being proposed. But from my experience, those locations that we have approved have not seen increases in crime. They have not seen increases in problems. If anything, it's helping to mitigate the situation. And so I view this site as already having homeless that are in the area. And so I don't think that this is going to be a magnet for more homelessness. I think instead it's going to help address the homeless that are already in the area currently. The other situation with bed space, we obviously are running out of bed space. I think Mr. Wheeler indicated that we're 130 some odd people had to be turned away at one of our current sites. And so clearly capacity is a problem. And as Mr. Zervis explained, in order for us to enforce our anti-camping ordinance, you have to have available bed space. And so this is a barrier for us to be able to move people out of public spaces if we don't have bed space that is available to them. Also the availability of services, whether it's substance abuse services, mental health services, or just the ability to provide those 3 meals a day to people. When folks are trying to escape addiction or having mental health problems, if they're not getting proper nutrition, they're not going to be able to get out of that cycle that they're in. Your brain physiology, your physical state is very important when it comes to your ability to get off of whatever drug you're on or to try to work through your mental health issues. And so just having that available to people, the ability to wash your clothes, to take a shower, those basic human necessities are all important for us to be able to pull people out of this horrible situation that they're in and get them on the road to recovery. However, I do think it's important for us to address the criminal homeless element that we do have in our community. And Mr. Zervis alluded to it when it came to an item that we're going to have on our agenda in a minute, but it has to do with the situation with our detentions deputies and our jail space. Currently, we don't have any space in our misdemeanor areas for our jail. There are sections of our jail that are sitting vacant because we don't have the staffing to maintain it. And so the beds are there sitting empty. And so the story that Mr. Turnipseed said about the individual that smashed up his car, it made me think, well, I'm glad I have a $1,000 deductible, Mike, because that would be a felony if something like that happened to my car. But regardless of whether it's a felony or it's a misdemeanor, right now with Proposition 47, hard drugs, heroin, methamphetamine, et cetera, those are misdemeanors. Theft under $950, that's a misdemeanor. That's why you have people going into Walmart and grabbing an $800 TV and nothing is happening to them. We hear from our judges that there are people with 60, 70, 80 failures to appear. So they're getting ticketed for these thefts or this drug possession, but nothing is happening to them because there's no place to put them. So they're not even bothering to show up at court. And if they are found and cited again for all those failures to appear, they know full well that they're not going anywhere. They're going to be cited once again. There isn't any place to put them. However, I do know that our district attorney will prosecute these misdemeanors, and it's up to a year in jail. I know that if we are able to provide that space in our jails by increasing the staffing of our detention deputies, which also will have the tandem effect of allowing us to push our regular deputies out into the street for patrol, which will make our communities that much more safe. Those are all things that are going to help to address that criminal element. You have folks that are homeless because they've come on tough times, they've lost their job, they've had domestic issues, and so the women are out on the streets with their children, et cetera. But there's also that criminal element that we all know exists. That needs to be addressed as well. But as Mr. Zervis and others have said, this is one component to us addressing this problem that's pervasive in our community, that we see that is getting worse. A lot of it's because we live in the state of California. I believe that very strongly. You know, there's a reason why you've got 12% of the population, but you have 30% of the homeless population. It's because of the structure of our laws, things like Prop 47, things like being soft on crime. However, there are ways for us to deal with it, and I think that it has to be done from all directions, and this is one piece of that. And so for that reason, I will support this, but I know that there's other supervisors who would like to speak, but I don't think that any location's perfect. I don't think that this is a silver bullet, but this is a piece to the puzzle of solving the overall problem. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Supervisor Scrivener. Question for staff. Just for some context, I think that a lot of it's been discussed today, but there's still some uncertainty about it. Is that the item before us is to go with the responsible low bid for construction? That the location decision, the project decision, that was all done on November 8th. So the item before us again is specs and receiving the low bid. But along that vein, it's important because order is important. And can you talk and touch upon how construction now helps facilitate an operational plan and the selection of an operator at that next future point of this process? How we have to get the environmental design right, the fencing right, the technology right, the cameras, the exits, the entry points, the vegetation, because all of that physical mitigation helps set our operator to do a good job, a safe job. Can you touch upon that, why this is important in terms of order?
Yes, Chairman Flores, that's correct. It's the construction timeline is such that it's going to take close to a year to have construction done on this. We're hoping to wrap it up in 10 months. And during that time, as we've indicated, we're going to be working on that operational plan. So it's helpful in the fact of being able to go out with an operational plan to have final buildable plans and a contractor in place and a construction timeline and all these things set so that the operators know exactly what we're working with and that they can time their operational plan accordingly. Having them bid for providing services, a year in advance, obviously those bids aren't going to be as refined as if we wanted a shorter window. So having them, we're hoping to select an operator by the end of June to look for an October opening date. So this gives us time to have a contractor in place, have a fixed plan so that the operators know exactly what this project looks like, what we're trying to achieve with it, vet the different operating proposals, and they're able to give us, a plan and not hire, you don't want that window too small. We don't want to try to open next week where they have to scramble and try to hire people and acquire materials and staff up. But you don't want it, 2 years out or a year out from signing the deal because, they're going to have to delay in getting all those things done, and those bids and those costs are either going to change or they're going to be overly inflated for some assumed inflation rate for that time. So it just gives us time to be able to work with that operator on a plan and them to be able to plan accordingly and refine their bidding to be able to meet those needs.
Thank you. And I think those plans are very important because that's where the details are in the programming. And we always hear wraparound services. And I know that we're going to have mental health supports, case management, healthcare, housing, of course, shelter, immediate needs. And this will serve as a catalyst to get these people situated and to move on into that next step, which is that supportive housing element, where that next step of success takes place. So real quick, this is in the 3rd District. I wasn't here at the time in November 8th, but I will be here now, and I am here, and we'll be managing this project accordingly moving forward. And I wanted to say thank you to all the community groups that came out, the citizens, the Kern River Parkway Foundation, Oildale Community Action Team, our homeless providers, the mobile home park. Everyone that has come out has helped me as a decision maker make this project a better project, a safer project in terms of how do we make this work. I I drive this place often. I'm always in Oildale. I took a drive last night, as a matter of fact, and it was dark, it was rainy. There were homeless everywhere. That's the baseline that we're at. You cross that bridge, I saw so many people. I'm surprised that people were not hit yesterday with that visibility. East Roberts Lane, North Chester, this corridor is saturated with homeless. It's a homeless population into itself right now. And the public is demanding that action be taken. We have to move the needle on this front. It's the seminal issue of our time. I know it, you know it. It's going to take an incremental approach. Again, we hear multifaceted strategies. We need everything available. We have safe camping. We have low barrier. We have private providers. This is one more thing of tiny homes. And we talked about populations like the elderly, populations like veterans, populations like youth that don't fit neatly in the box of a congregate setting and that are forced out in the streets. This is a time where we can bring them in safely, do it right. And speaking of right, I understand that the county has the vested right, and I know the current land use of mobile home allows this by right. I further understand that the state allows this by right with no hearing. But what's more important than that is that we get it right, that we do it right. And that's what this process is about. I look forward to hearing about the operational plan. I look forward to having 24-hour security, private security, 3 layers, full-blown law enforcement with our Kern County Rangers, and increased cooperation and support from our Sheriff's Office. Supervisor Scribner mentioned before, we're going to take action shortly to boost our salaries for detention officers, which has a ripple exponential effect on other law enforcement to make them available in Oildale and elsewhere. So again, thank you staff, thank you everyone that commented, and I look forward to supporting this project also and seeing what comes before us in the coming months to get this right. And in retrospect, I have many issues, but one issue worth mentioning is I would like to see better communication on the front end. So there's a lot of people that found out about this after the fact. I think it helps our community, it helps our very own project to improve those communications. And we have that trust, that understanding, the overall project is a success. And lastly, as we talk about mitigation measures about the project, this project unto itself it's inherently its own mitigation measure. This will help on the homelessness front. The situation out there on the river, it's really bad. Let's take those people from the river. Let's put them into these tiny homes. Let's improve this area because Oildale deserves it.
Motion on staff's recommendation.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Mr. Chairman, does that include the wording that County Council recommended? Or
I have to ask the maker of the motion.
Yeah. Could you state that again, Margot?
I was just going to ask that. Thank you.
So I'm looking at the bottom of the board letter, and on item number 3 that says authorize the Chief General Services Officer or designee to sign, I would add subject to approval of County Council.
I'll amend my motion as you've described.
Okay. We have a motion and second. Members, cast your vote.
Supervisor Perez, can you reconfirm your vote? Thank you. The motion is approved. All ayes.
Okay, thank you. Next item is item number 34 under Human Resources Division.
Mr. Chairman, were you handing it off to us?
Not yet.
Sorry.
Almost. Okay, this is a proposed amendment to agreement with the Kern County Detention Officers Association, and I will hand it out to CAO.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sorry about that. Members of the board, because of the hour, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this other than to say we're very pleased to bring this item before the board and have it considered. Something that your board has been working quite hard on, and for all the reasons that were conveyed by Supervisor Scribner on the earlier item, as well as Chairman Flores, We're very happy to take this up today, and I'm going to hand it over to Devin Brown. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chairman Flores and members of the board. As noted, we are seeking your approval for an amendment to the Kern County Detention Officers Association Memorandum of Understanding. That MOU was entered into in November of 2021. At the time, the MOU included wage increases, helping keep Kern County competitive in the labor market for detentions and corrections personnel. The MOU also included a recruitment bonus of $15,000 for new hires into the Sheriff's Office detentions ranks to be paid out over the course of the first several years of employment. Detentions positions continue to be a challenge in both recruitment and retentions measurements. In just over a year's time, our compensation for detentions classifications have fallen below our comparable counties in the San Joaquin Valley. The Sheriff's Office currently has 78 funded vacancies in its detentions ranks, which amounts to a vacancy rate of 32.5%. It is important to understand that these positions fill mandated staffing roles for our Sheriff's Office jail facilities, meaning that all vacancies are continuously backfilled with mandatory overtime. Additionally, the Sheriff's Office continues to staff its downtown jail with deputy sheriff personnel, limiting the availability of sworn deputies to assist in normal patrol and operational functions. Both Sheriff Youngblood and your board have identified staffing our detention ranks as a key priority in bolstering our ability to provide the community with public safety. Filling these vacancies allows the sheriff to move deputies to operational assignments over the course of time. It also lessens the overtime burden placed upon existing detentions officers, improving turnover and retaining those key trained personnel. While many positions across our county have faced higher than normal vacancy rates over the past year, the detentions classifications are unique because of their high vacancy rate, as stated, 32.5%, and the continued difficulty with recruiting people into those positions. Not to mention their place as the linchpin in the overall success of staffing our Kern County Sheriff's Office. The proposed amendment before you makes the biggest stride that we have made to date in changing the circumstances caused by our current vacancy rate. We are proposing a 22% across the board salary adjustment for all classifications represented by Kern County Detentions Officers Association. The amendment also includes a restructure of that $15,000 recruitment bonus, making it payable up front to make it more enticing, subject to a 5-year employment commitment for those new hires. These bold measures are needed to induce quality candidates to apply for our detentions opportunities and to stop the departure of trained and experienced personnel. The Kern County Sheriff's Office and the county continue to be focused on taking all available measures to recruit and fill its ranks. We have a new recruitment website at kcsojobs.org, and I encourage you all to check that out. That website highlights all the benefits of working for our Kern County Sheriff's Office and includes all the necessary steps to apply and qualify for those positions. We've also been holding micro recruiting events, and there's a slide I want to put up on the projector, to target specific positions available within the Kern County Sheriff's Office and to bring on qualified candidates as quickly as possible. Our next event targets the detentions deputy position being discussed today. Your Human Resources Division, the Kern County Sheriff's Office, and our Kern County Detention Officers Association are hosting a recruiting event at the KCDOA headquarters this future Wednesday, January 25th from 2 to 6 p.m. And we encourage anyone interested in a rewarding career serving our community with the Kern County Sheriff's Office to attend and find out more information. In closing, we are all coming together around this critical staffing need and working together to achieve success. The compensation adjustments that are part of this amendment are a critical component to achieving that success. We are all in agreement with the recommended action before you today of approving this amendment to the MOU and directing our staff to implement its provisions effective January 14th, 2023. I thank you for your time. I'm available for questions. I know our undersheriff has graciously stayed throughout the last item and is here to provide additional comment. And again, I thank you for your time, and we recommend your approval on staff's recommendation.
Thank you. Supervisor Perez.
Do you want me to wait, Chairman Flores, for the undersheriff? Or?
Oh, did you want to speak? Yeah, come on up. Sorry. We'll get to you in a second.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, fellow members of the board. The sheriff wasn't able to make it today due to a conference, but I've spoken to him, and on behalf of the sheriff, we'd like to thank our CAO's office, our County Human Resources, and your board, and our Detention Officers Association for working together to recognize our staffing issues. And we all have met numerous times and can agree that our detentions is a key component to resolving some of the staffing issues that we've been facing over the years. Mr. Brown's staff and our staff, as well as Mr. Alsop and Services staff, have been meeting monthly on a reoccurring basis for some time now to discuss our recruitment, our retention issues and plans going forward. And we hope that, that this action has a very positive effect for our staff and the county. And we look forward to holding more micro-recruitment events for our detention staff and getting these vacancies filled so we can provide these services. Thank you very much, and I'll answer any questions if you have.
Great news. Thank you so much. Supervisor Perez.
Thank you, Chairman. First of all, congratulations on your ascension. That's recent. I saw that Doug and his wife recently went across country and settled, I think, in Tennessee. And so we will miss them, although we'll stay in touch on Facebook, I'm sure. Congratulations on your post. Congratulations to our sheriff and our district attorney and many others who went out and put their reputation to the people to ask rural parts of Kern County whether this is a priority for us or not, or unincorporated areas of Kern County. And clearly it is. And that's very exciting because this is a new opportunity for Kern County we haven't seen before. And I think the first major step in the right direction to address issues of morale, issues of long-term retention, and of course the recruitment, creativity. Devin, thank you so much. This has been a conversation for a long time. You've really taken a lot of very complicated factors and really brought them to bear in a way that is just so encouraging and exciting. Ryan, hats off to your team and to moving this county in the direction that we need to be. I think the people are with us, and it's just really exciting. It's not every day we get to do something like this, Ryan. So hats off to you. That's all, Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, but sorry, that is a motion. Thank you.
Thanks. Supervisor Scrivener had some comments, and then we have a motion on the floor.
I just wanted to reiterate to the community, the domino effect that I see happening here. If you're able to address your retention and recruitment issues for your detention deputies, that allows you to open areas of the jail that are currently vacant, which helps to address the criminal element problems that we have where we currently don't have space for them. The second part of it is it allows us to then move our regular deputies that are being forced now to work in the jails out on patrol, which helps to address the crime issues throughout Kern County. So that's what this is. This is the first step, I believe, for us to start addressing the overall public safety issues that we have in the county. But it starts, I believe, with the detention deputies, and I think that that's been the missing component, but we just have not been able to afford to address it in the way in which we are now. And obviously the passage of Measure K is helping us to do that, but it's also because our CAO staff and their financial teams has made this a priority, and the Detentions Deputies Union and the Sheriff's Department and the CAO all working together to help to solve this problem, I think is incredible, and I'd like to second the motion, and I want to thank you all for your hard work.
Thank you. Before I call for a vote, I want to open up to public comment if there's any public comment before we cast our votes. Okay, seeing none, members cast your votes.
The motion is approved. All ayes.
Great. Okay, that brings us to adjournment, having no additional items to consider. Sorry, didn't see that. Okay. Go ahead, Supervisor Perez.
Sorry, Chairman, I should have actually made a note
You're
earlier,
a
but I
quick puncher.
forgot. So
You're quick.
here we are. This is a John Spalding memoriam that was put together and so beautiful in his honor, and I thought it would be so appropriate if you would please consider adjourning in his memory.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Chairman.
Yeah, it would be a high honor for our board to adjourn before we officially adjourn in the memory of John Spalding for his dedicated service to Kern County, to labor, to families, and to making Kern County a better place to live, work, and prosper. So I'll entertain a motion to adjourn to Tuesday, January 24th, 2023, 9 a.m., and in John Spalding's honor.
So moved.
Okay, thank you, we're adjourned.